wokeism and gender ideology, it's a brand new issue in Hungary, and it came through the transatlantic channel. So obviously it came unfortunately from the United States. But the Hungarians, we were occupied by the Russians for like 40 years, and through this period of occupation, the Russians, they did try to teach us to Marxist ideologies, and constantly in school, in universities, everybody was repeating the nonsense Marxist ideas. So in an average Hungarian or a grassroots Hungarian voter, they are resistant against this Marxist. They were resistant against the Marxist propaganda, and when the woke came in, they immediately realized that there is a connection between the original Marxist ideology and the woke or the gender ideology.
So one of the things that you've been doing is encouraging people to have kids, because you wrote a piece recently. I mean, you're worried about sort of population collapse, which everyone, if you listen to mainstream media, it's basically that the earth is going to be overrun with humans. We're going to have no resources left, and there's too many of us. And if everyone could have less kids, that would be good. And you see it. I think it's just
I think it's just the other way around. So, and especially, we Hungarians, we are a small nation, just 10 million people. So probably for big empires, the historical perspective is a bit different. But for us, we think that we have a very unique culture. We have a unique language. Culturally, we are an island in Europe. Mm-hmm. We want to preserve it. And we need people, and we need children who are ready to be the representatives of this culture in the future. If we don't have these people, then everything what is linked to Hungarianness will disappear, and we don't want to let it happen.
So
we need people.
So it sounds like you're fighting in many ways the same sort of wokeness, the same sort of top-down thing, that it's a little hard to tell where it's coming from. But corporations and globalists and all of this stuff. When did it start in Hungary, or where did it start? Like how powerful is it? Like is it sort of like America, where now it's in all of our TV shows, it's on the news all the time, our corporations are part of it? Is it a similar feeling there?
So the wokeism and gender ideology, it's a brand new issue in Hungary, and it came through the transatlantic channel. So obviously it came unfortunately from the United States. But the Hungarians, we were occupied by the Russians for like 40 years, and through this period of occupation, the Russians, they did try to teach us to Marxist ideologies, and constantly in school, in universities, everybody was repeating the nonsense Marxist ideas. So in an average Hungarian or a grassroots Hungarian voter, they are resistant against this Marxist. They were resistant against the Marxist propaganda, and when the woke came in, they immediately realized that there is a connection between the original Marxist ideology and the woke or the gender ideology. It's a neo-Marxist.
How was it coming in though? Was it coming in through television that was imported, or movies, or was there something more coordinated?
Yeah, culture and the NGOs, media and NGOs. They are playing a very important role. First was whether the soccer players should go down to their knee, right, or not. And we
wait. So you had your own version of that relative to the Hungarian flag?
No, actually, we were through international media forced to follow this thing, and we were saying that look, we understand that some of them are. I know it's a controversial issue here in the United States as well, but I understand that some of the people are saying that it's about racial equality, which is important, but and about the black communities. But we didn't have any slavery in Hungary. We don't have any black community. So this is a cultural reference point which is which is not ours. So it's not a problem if somebody else is doing that. But if we are forced to do so and forced to follow, then it's something scary. And then a couple months later, the educational issues came in, and NGOs and media people, they started to launch campaigns in schools. You know, how to make it easier for children to change their sex, and they question their identity. The whole LGBTQ movement came in, and then we realized that this is serious. So we accepted legislation quite similar to the Florida one to protect the minors and ban sexual orientation classes without the consent of the parents. And we were immediately attacked by the headquarters of the European Union, by the Brazilian bureaucrats. And then we made the decision that, you know, our only chance is, this is common sense, what we are saying, and it will be backed by the people. So we launched a referendum, and in this April we had a referendum on these gender ideological issues, 4 questions, and the Hungarians said with an overwhelming majority, 92% of the votes, and the turnout was the biggest in the history of referendum of modern Hungary. So more people participated in the referendum than in a migration issue, than in a NATO enlargement issue or EU enlargement issue, and they voted with a huge majority against these gender ideological things. And it's a huge success. But
and where does your media fit in that? I mean, was the media doing what our media does, which is here in Florida, you know, calling Ron DeSantis a homophobe, making up all? I mean, do you see it as a very similar?
Yeah, it's a very similar pattern. But the only difference is not only the domestic media, but the international media is on us as well, and it makes very hard to survive. But we have no other chance. Once we are supported by the people, so we don't have to be popular in the editorial board of the New York Times. We have to be popular among the Hungarian voters. We have to represent their ideas. And second, if the Western civilization goes forward to that direction, that's going to be a suicide mission. So somehow we should turn back or turn away from this direction, and to do so you have to stand up and be outspoken, even if it's controversial.
You mentioned right before we started, we spoke only for just 2 or 3 minutes before we started, but you said something about how the other European nations, that there's very few people in the nations willing to stand up for their own nations, and that seems to be the fight that you guys have. Who else is kind of doing it right? Is there anyone else? Poland seems to maybe have a version of this that's working.
Yeah, that's true. Poland is a strong country, 4 times bigger than Hungary. It plays a very important role. They have a clear conservative government. They have a very tough nation-state vision. So they are doing great, economically very successful. And there are everywhere political forces who are representing the same ideas. The only problem is that the establishment is doing everything what is necessary to not let them in. There will be election in Italy, end of this month, and the Italian right side is doing great. The coalition of right-wing parties, they are leading in the polls, so it can be a game changer.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about international issues instead of nonstop yelling, check out our international playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, check out our full episode playlist. They're all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.